Hello everyone, I'm the Xavier 456, and welcome to this special gimmick video. We're going to be talking about the route that I've taken between my two homes. This video is inspired by Cordamanch's Pava Corridor video, which I edited by the way, and DerpHog's Springfield trip video. Today we are going to be talking about the MIPA Corridor, my route between homes, between Michigan and Pennsylvania. This is going to be a crossover between two series that we've already done, Michigan's Freeways and Shaming PENNDOT. Alright, so now let's take a look at the map that we're going to cover. My route between Detroit and Pittsburgh, for simplicity's sake, takes me on these routes: M14, I-275, I-75, I-280, I-80 and I-90, I-76, I-376, and I-79, from Detroit to Pittsburgh, and we are not going to include any surface roads because I don't want to dox myself. You're watching the Xavier 456. I post new highway content every week. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and smash that like button, and if you really like it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Let's start by talking about the route from Detroit to Pittsburgh. This is the route from this current home to my old home. Alright, let's start here at the Sheldon Road exit on M14. This is my home route currently, and it is signed for Ann Arbor and Detroit. Once we get our ramps, we are signed for Detroit, as we'll be going eastbound, and west is signed for Ann Arbor. Here we meet with I-275 and I-96, where you can continue straight to go on I-96 east for Detroit. North 275 and West 96 are signed for Flint and Lansing, and South 275, which we will be taking, is signed for Toledo. Down the road, we meet with I-94, which is signed for Detroit and Chicago, simply, and we are still signed for Toledo. And now we reach the end of I-275 as it meets with its parent, and we're signed for Toledo still, while North is signed for Detroit once again. Here we get our first mileage sign on our stretch of I-75, our last stretch to Michigan, and we can see we got Monroe on the top line at 6 miles and Toledo on the bottom at 26. Well done. Although, once we reach this mileage sign in Monroe, look what MDOT has just done. They put Erie, Michigan, which is a very small town, on the bottom line, and they completely dropped Toledo. And I don't even know why they would have to do this. Now, unfortunately, as a Michigander, I'm gonna have to give this a rare Michigan L. But now we enter into the state of Ohio, which is the longest running state of our journey. And this is actually the old sign. Now we've got Ohio, the heart of it all, instead of Find It Here. It is now time for us to split off of I-75, as it is now signed for Dayton, and we are signed for Cleveland on I-280. Cleveland is being signed there because of East 80 and 90, the turnpike, which we will be following later. Here's a bridge I've always crossed over, and this is the Veterans Memorial Skyway over the Maumee River. I've always called this bridge the Toledo Skyway, but I got pretty close. Here's our only mileage sign on the route, and it's only for upcoming routes. We've got the turnpike coming in 4 miles, and we've got US 20 coming in 6 miles. We'll be exiting on the turnpike before then. And by the way, this image right here is the first of my pictures I've taken on my most recent trip. Here we meet the turnpike, which is getting signed for Cleveland and Chicago, and we'll be taking the direction towards Cleveland. And we can see that I-280 has ended and has turned into Ohio 420. And here is our first toll plaza, and to save some time, I'll be using this easy pass saved over from Shaming PENNDOT. Here's our choice of direction. As we can see, 80 and 90 west are signed for Chicago, and 80 and 90 east are signed for Cleveland. Good work by the Ohio Turnpike there. Here's our first mileage sign, although we get mileage signs after literally almost every exit on the turnpike. We can see Elmore is signed 9 miles away, Fremont is 21 miles away, and Cleveland is a solid 100 miles away. Cool stuff. Much further down the road, it is time for I-90 to leave, and we also get information for Ohio 2, and they're signed for Cleveland. And this is one of these instances on the turnpike that we're only getting through traffic instead of the next control city. I don't know why. I probably would want to see Youngstown on there. And here is where we meet with I-480, which is also getting signed for Cleveland. but we don't get a pull through here because there's literally another exit coming up, and it's for Ohio 10. And here we meet with I-71, getting signed for Cleveland and Columbus, and now we finally got a pull through with 80 East Youngstown. And it still holds up as we get this exit for I-77, signed for Cleveland and Akron. Here we cross over I-271, which Todd covered, by the way, and we do not have any direct access to it from the turnpike. You're gonna have to take a different road to get there, but I just wanted to show it from overhead. And here is a bridge I've kind of admired. This is the bridge over the Cuyahoga River, and it's very close by to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Here's the other end of I-480, along with Ohio 14, and it is getting signed for Cleveland and Streetsboro. Streetsboro is only a suburb. And we are still getting signed for Youngstown. Here is a new toll plaza that opened a few years ago. So here we go again. This one's completely electronic for me. And of course, it wouldn't be I-80 in Ohio if I didn't show this. New York City, follow I-80 East. Well done, that is exactly how it's done, and Pennsylvania needs to learn a lot of words from Ohio. Here we meet with I-76, and we continue straight to go down it. We're signed for the PA Turnpike and Pittsburgh, and East I-80 and West 76, and also an information for to I-680, and they're all signed for Youngstown. I don't know why just Youngstown would be on there, but I would want to see New York City, because Ohio is so good with it. Once we get into I-76, here we get this strange mileage sign. For some reason, the top line has been covered, and we only get Newcastle and Pittsburgh. Newcastle is being signed there for westbound I-376, which we won't be taking. And besides, that is a primary that the PTC and PENNDOT both do, which I don't agree with, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And we see Pittsburgh's on the bottom line, and that's all I care for. Although, when we get another mileage sign, the last one in Ohio, we get Newcastle and Pittsburgh, but the bottom line is apparently Harrisburg, because they don't have a third option to sign between here and Pittsburgh, so I don't know. Harrisburg seems very far away at this point, so maybe keep Pittsburgh on the bottom line. That's what I think, though. And here we get our end Ohio Turnpike sign, and now we enter into the state of Pennsylvania. And no, it's time for some shaming PENNDOT and the PTC. We've come back. Alright, here's our first toll plaza in PA. And now we reach our exit, which is I-376. It's a toll road again, and it is signed for Newcastle and Pittsburgh. I talked about Newcastle in the Shaming PENNDOT series, and I'm not sure how good of a control city it is heading this way, but I'd say it should still be Youngstown, because there are routes that go to Youngstown from Newcastle, and it's bigger. Anyways, here is our choice of direction. 376 West Newcastle, feel like that should be Youngstown, and 376 East, now getting signed for Beaver and Pittsburgh. I don't know why you threw Beaver on there, but as long as Pittsburgh's on there, that's good. And here is our last toll plaza heading eastbound. Right afterwards, we meet with PA 51, one of my episodes from the series, getting signed for Chippewa. And that's only a township. Sign something other than that, like Rochester or whatever, but not Chippewa. And here we cross over the Ohio River on the Vanport Bridge. And here we meet with Business 376 for Moon Township and the cargo sections of the airport. And we are still getting signed for Pittsburgh, along with airport thrown on there, because normal 376 is what you follow to the passenger terminal. Here we meet with US 30, which is getting signed for nothing but Clinton. Absolutely not. If you're gonna sign something for West 30, it should be East Liverpool. And here we also get information for the airport and PA 576 East Washington. No, sign Morgantown. And we still get I-376 East Pittsburgh, and it will hold up like that for the rest of the way. Here he meets with the other end of Business 376 for Moon, and we are getting signed for Pittsburgh still. Here, US 22 and US 30 become concurrent with I-376. As you can see, westbound they're signed for Weirton. They're following US 22's control. And we can also see PA 60 for Crafton. And here is where we meet with I-79, the final leg of our journey heading eastbound, with 376 signed for Pittsburgh, and North 79 signed for Erie, and South for Washington. Absolutely not. That should be Morgantown. Don't favor I-70. And here's my former home's exits. PA 50 for Bridgeville, and this is where my freeway journey ends heading eastbound, with 79 still signed south for Washington with absolutely no paw there. You can do better than that, PENNDOT. No wonder I have you all the way down at the bottom of the barrel. Alright, now let's turn around and talk about the route from Pittsburgh to Detroit. Alright, so we're now going to get on at the same exit with I-79 north sign for Pittsburgh, as it should be, and now we meet with I-376, which is signed for the airport heading westbound, and Pittsburgh heading eastbound. I mean, airport, I don't know. It's helpful for airport traffic, but still, I feel like you could throw Youngstown on there. And 79 North is getting pulled through for Erie. And here is where US 22 and US 30 split off, and they're signed for Weirton, as they should be, although I wouldn't mind seeing East Liverpool on there for US 30. Here's where we meet the business route of I-376 from Moon, and we are getting pulled through for Pittsburgh International Airport and Beaver. Again, Beaver, absolutely not. That should be Youngstown. We are going to Youngstown. If you are following other routes from, say, Newcastle or whatnot, skip over Newcastle and Beaver altogether. And here's where we meet the airport, and we still have this old signage for East 576 to US 22. Right now it says Washington PA, and that absolutely should be Morgantown again. And now we're getting pulled through West 376 Beaver. No! Sign Youngstown! And here we meet the business route once again, getting signed for Flaherty Run Road and Moon. And we're still pulled through for Beaver. I've had just about enough of you, PENNDOT. Glad this series is over. And here we get PA-51 for Chippewa once again, where it should be Rochester. And it is our last exit before the toll road. And it is signed for Newcastle now. Not as egregious as Beaver, but still, it should be Youngstown. That's bigger. And you forgot that there is US 422. It exists. And here is our first toll plaza of the journey, heading westbound. And here is where we meet the Turnpike, I-76, getting signed east for Harrisburg and west for Ohio, where I feel like you shouldn't just have a whole control state. It should be Cleveland or Youngstown or whatnot. But still, 376 west, signed for Newcastle. Alright, time to escape this clutch once and for all. We're now getting on to westbound I-76, signed for Ohio, and nothing else. I don't really want to see a control state on there, to be honest. But guess what? The Turnpike puts up these exits mileage signs, and what do we get? Exit Ohio Turnpike, which isn't even an exit the last time I checked. That should be a proper mileage sign with like Youngstown and Cleveland on it. And here we come into Ohio, and this is the super old sign, the So Much to Discover sign, which predates the heart of it all and Find It Here. Anyways, it's all good signage from here, thankfully. Alright, let's get into our next toll plaza, and the first one in Ohio. This is going to cost a little extra from using the Turnpike in Pennsylvania as Easy Pass. Here's where we meet with I-680, which we didn't have an exit to heading eastbound, and it's signed for Youngstown, and we're pulled through for Cleveland. And here is where we meet with I-80, where the Turnpike will be continuing on. It's signed for Ohio Turnpike and Cleveland. And I-76 and 80 are signed for Akron, Canton, and Youngstown. And here is the brand new toll plaza, and the third one. This is going to be an electronic one. Here's our first mileage sign that we're going to see. Warren is on the top line at 10 miles, Ravenna is in the middle, and Cleveland is on the bottom at 58. Here we meet with I-480 getting signed for Cleveland and Streetsboro, but 80 is also getting signed for Cleveland. Ohio Turnpike, would you make up your mind which road is getting signed for Cleveland? Because right now, traffic doesn't know where they're going to get to Cleveland. I'd say put Cleveland on 480 and put Toledo on 80. Thank you very much. However, on the exit itself, we see 80 West is signed for Toledo. So that's the right choice from here. But even Cleveland holds up on the next ramp, which is for Ohio 8 for Akron. But now at this point, they're favoring I-77 to get to Cleveland. Even still, you should be signing Toledo for the Turnpike for through traffic if you don't want to pay another toll. And here we meet I-77 for Akron and Cleveland, and we are now actually getting a pull through for Toledo. And here we meet I-71 for Cleveland and Columbus, and 80 is still getting pulled through for Toledo. North Olmsted being on the top line, Elyria being in the middle, and Toledo being on the bottom line at a solid 100 miles away. Here is where I-480 comes back into us. We don't have an exit for it, but we did heading eastbound. And it's the same situation for I-90 as it joins back up here. And now here's the last mileage sign I'll be showing you on the route. And this one's weird because we have two routes instead. We've got I-280 on the top, I-75 in the middle, and Toledo is still on the bottom line. I feel like from here you should have Chicago be the bottom line because right now you have more routes than cities. I feel like you should have more cities than routes. And now we meet our next freeway, I-280, signed for Toledo and Detroit. We're getting off here, and here is our final toll plaza of the journey. And here is our choice of direction. We can see Ohio 420 for Stony Ridge, and I-280 north for Toledo and Detroit. Here is the only mileage sign that ODOT gives us on this route, Ohio 51 Toledo, and Detroit are on this mileage sign, so that's good. And here we cross the Veterans Memorial Skyway once again as we get a nice view of the Toledo skyline. And now we meet with I-75, which is getting signed south for absolutely nothing for whatever reason. It should have Dayton on there. And I-75 North is signed for Detroit. And now we get our first mileage sign from MDOT, and it is for Monroe, Detroit, and Flint. So they're already jumping the gun here. Detroit should be the bottom line and not Flint because, of course, Detroit is Michigan's largest city, and we also get a relatively new welcome sign just up ahead. Here we cross over the River Raisin facing out towards Lake Erie, as we can see an industry to the right. And here we made our last interstate of the journey, I-275 North for Flint, and 75 North is still signed for Detroit. So apparently they were signing Flint because of I-275 and not I-75 itself, because I-275 is the faster way to get to Flint from here, via I-275 and I-96 and US 23 respectively. And now we've got another mileage sign with Livonia on the top line, Flint on the top line this time, that is for the routes I just mentioned, and Lansing's on the bottom line for I-96, and coincidentally, it's 96 miles away from here. Awesome. And here we meet I-94 signed for Detroit and Chicago, and we're still signed 275 North Flint. And now we meet our exits, which is East 96 and West 14 for Detroit and Ann Arbor. And North 275 and West 96 get pulled through for both Flint and Lansing. And here's our exit ramp, M14 West for Ann Arbor. Here's our last mileage sign on the journey. We can see Ann Arbor is a one-liner and it is 16 miles away. And here is our exit back to my house. Exit 20 for Sheldon Road. Alright, that concludes my journey between Michigan and Pennsylvania, the MIPA corridor. Thank you, and I will see you all then. May peace be with you.